How many more millions of children will be harmed by products that, while innovative, are still designed without sufficient safeguards? And when will children be able to enjoy the extraordinary potential of technology without it compromising their well-being? For too long, we've accepted a dangerous bargain that modern connection must come at the cost of the innocence of childhood, that innovation excuses injury, and that speed matters more than safety. But we would never accept this logic anywhere else. We did not tell parents to create their own seatbelts. We did not ask children to test unsafe medicine. We did not shrug at poisoned water or defective toys and call it the price of progress. We acted, and now the world must act again.
And that right there is what Meghan Sussex did in Geneva, Switzerland. She stood there calmly and asked one devastating question. How many more children have to be harmed before the people profiting from this finally act responsibly? And suddenly, the entire conversation changed. Because for years now, tech companies have treated child safety the same way certain royal institutions treat accountability, something to dodge, delay, and bury beneath PR statements written by emotionally unavailable consultants in expensive loafers. Meghan walked directly into that conversation and refused to play dumb. What makes this speech so effective is that Meghan didn't overcomplicate it. She didn't bury the message in corporate language. She didn't throw around empty buzzwords like digital synergy or innovative pathways. Human beings truly invented entire careers dedicated to saying absolutely nothing in 47 different ways. Instead, she used examples everybody understands: seatbelts, unsafe medicine, poisoned water, defective toys, and then she delivered the knockout punch. Why do we accept danger for children online when we would never accept it anywhere else? That's it. That's the whole argument. Simple, clear, devastating. Because she's right. If a toy company knowingly released dangerous products harming children, people would demand investigations immediately. If a food company poisoned water supplies, there would be lawsuits before sunset. If a car manufacturer ignored safety warnings, governments would intervene. But social media companies, tech giants, algorithm-driven platforms? Apparently, they're allowed to shrug and say, well, parenting is hard. Please, these platforms spend billions studying human behavior down to microscopic detail. They know how long children scroll, what keeps them engaged, what triggers anxiety, what triggers addiction cycles, what manipulates attention. But somehow, we're supposed to believe they're helpless little babies who cannot possibly improve safety systems? That's adorable. And Meghan calling that out on an international stage matters, especially because she framed this as a collective responsibility, instead of blaming exhausted parents already trying to survive inflation, school pressures, work stress, and the psychological warfare known as modern internet culture. Parents cannot individually outsmart trillion-dollar tech systems engineered to monopolize attention. That's reality. And frankly, it takes courage to say that publicly, because tech criticism immediately attracts backlash from people who think every discussion about regulation is somehow anti-progress. Meanwhile, their 12-year-old is getting radicalized by conspiracy videos between Minecraft clips. Excellent progress there, society. What also stood out in Geneva was Meghan's delivery. Calm, measured, controlled. No rage bait, no fake emotional performance, no look-at-me theatrics. Which is funny because her critics spent years claiming she only wanted attention. Yet, whenever she actually speaks publicly, she usually focuses on issues larger than herself: mental health, women's empowerment, community support, digital safety, children's well-being. Meanwhile, some royal commentators dedicate entire careers analyzing jam jars and body language like rejected Sherlock Holmes auditions. One side discusses systemic issues affecting millions. The other writes, Meghan blinked aggressively during panel discussion. Groundbreaking journalism. And you know what really unsettles people? Meghan sounds credible. That's the part they cannot stand. She sounds prepared, articulate, comfortable in global spaces, natural around leaders and advocates. She doesn't sound intimidated. She doesn't sound diminished. And after years of media campaigns trying to portray her as unserious, every polished international appearance quietly destroys that narrative all over again. That's why they spiral every time, because every speech becomes another reminder that Meghan Sussex did not disappear after leaving the royal institution. If anything, she expanded a bonded. And that reality deeply irritates people who built entire careers insisting she would fail. You can practically hear the frustration now. She keeps being relevant. Yes, that tends to happen when somebody works internationally on high-profile issues while possessing global name recognition. Strange phenomenon. The Geneva appearance also exposed something deeply uncomfortable about modern culture. We have normalized children's suffering online. Think about that. Children dealing with harassment, exploitation, algorithmic manipulation, mental health crises, predatory content exposure, cyberbullying. And somehow, adults collectively decided, well, that's just how the internet works. No, that's how corporations designed it to work. There's a difference. The internet did not descend from the heavens carved into stone tablets. Human beings built these systems. Human beings profit from these systems. Human beings can redesign these systems. And Meghan's speech forces people to confront that responsibility, which explains why the message resonated globally. Because parents everywhere understand the fear. They understand how difficult it is raising children in a world where digital spaces can become psychologically dangerous before a child is even emotionally mature enough to process what they're seeing. This is not abstract anymore. Entire generations are growing up online. That changes everything. And honestly, a lot of world leaders, corporations, and institutions are behind reality. Children are adapting faster than regulations can keep up. Meanwhile, politicians still hold hearings asking questions that sound like, so, the TikTok, is that inside the Facebook machine? Sir, please retire. And that's another reason Meghan's speech landed well internationally. She spoke like somebody aware that this is urgent now, not 10 years from now, not after another tragic story trends online, not after another roundtable discussion with catered sandwiches and empty promises. Now. That urgency matters, especially coming from someone who has consistently focused on mental health advocacy alongside Prince Harry. And whether people support them or not, one thing is undeniable. They have remained remarkably consistent on this topic. Mental health, digital harm, online toxicity, protection for young people. The themes keep repeating because the problems keep worsening. Meanwhile, sections of the media continue proving their point daily by monetizing outrage 24 hours a day like emotionally dehydrated content vampires. You ever notice how some tabloids claim to care deeply about mental health while publishing rage-farming stories designed to provoke harassment? Interesting business model there. We support kindness. Posts 14 hostile articles before lunch. Humanity remains undefeated in hypocrisy. And speaking of hypocrisy, the reaction from some corners online has been absurd. There are people genuinely angry that Meghan gave a speech about child safety. Not because the message was wrong, not because the facts were inaccurate, not because the issue lacks importance, but because they dislike her personally. That's it. That's the intellectual depth. Imagine being so committed to hating somebody that you accidentally position yourself against safer online spaces for children. Could not be me. Embarrassing hobby. And this is why Meghan continues frustrating critics. She keeps choosing causes that are fundamentally difficult to attack without looking ridiculous,
children's safety, mental health, women's equality, community support. You can't openly oppose those things without sounding cartoonishly villainous. So, instead, critics obsess over tone, facial expressions, wardrobe choices, or imaginary hidden motives. Classic distraction tactics. Because addressing the actual substance would require engaging honestly with the issue itself, and many people simply don't want to do that. It's easier to reduce women, especially high-profile women, into personality debates rather than engage with what they're actually saying. Meghan knows this by now. You can tell. That's why her public appearances increasingly feel focused and intentional. There's less noise, less over-explaining, less trying to appease impossible critics, just direct messaging. And frankly, that confidence unsettles people who expected her to retreat quietly after leaving royal life. Instead, she keeps showing up globally. Geneva today, another summit tomorrow, another initiative next month. Meanwhile, the outrage cycle repeats itself, like a malfunctioning washing machine full of tabloid headlines. At some point, people have to admit the obvious. The obsession with Meghan says more about the media ecosystem than it says about Meghan herself. Because normal people do not spend this much energy monitoring someone they supposedly don't care about. That's not disinterest, that's performance art. And the funniest part, the more they attack her appearances, the more visibility those appearances receive. Congratulations, you invented free marketing. Again. Somewhere, a palace aide is staring at analytics charts wondering why every attempted smear campaign keeps increasing global attention instead. Because outrage fuels visibility. Always has. And Meghan understands media dynamics far better than critics want to admit. She rarely responds directly anymore. She doesn't need to. The work speaks, the appearances speak, the global invitations speak. Geneva alone tells a story. People do not invite irrelevant individuals to major international discussions about technology, safety, and children's well-being. That's not how these spaces operate. You can dislike her all day long, reality remains stubborn. And honestly, the speech itself deserves attention beyond royal drama, because the issue is real. Children are facing unprecedented digital pressures, comparison culture, cyberbullying, predatory algorithms, exploitative content systems, isolation disguised as connectivity. Adults barely handle social media psychologically. Why do we assume children magically can? Most grown adults lose emotional stability after reading 3 comment sections and 1 badly sourced tweet. But somehow, kids are expected to navigate infinite digital exposure safely with minimal protection. That's insane. And Meghan calling out the dangerous bargain was probably the strongest part of the speech. Because society really has accepted this unspoken deal, technological advancement in exchange for collateral damage. As long as innovation moves fast enough, harm becomes tolerated. That mindset is deeply dangerous. Progress without ethics becomes exploitation very quickly. History proves that repeatedly. Industries almost never regulate themselves voluntarily. Pressure forces change. Public awareness forces change. Advocacy forces change. Policy forces change. And speeches like this contribute to that pressure, even if critics mock them, even if trolls rage online, even if tabloids attempt to redirect the conversation towards personality gossip. The message still lands. Parents still hear it, experts still discuss it, organizations still push forward. That's how change actually works. Not through one magical speech, but through sustained public pressure over time. And Meghan understands the power of platform visibility. Whether people admit it or not, global attention matters. When high-profile figures speak on issues affecting children, media coverage expands, public discussion expands, pressure expands. That visibility can absolutely influence conversations internationally, which is why dismissing speeches like this as celebrity activism misses the point entirely. Visibility is influence. Influence shapes conversation. Conversation shapes policy. Policy shapes outcomes. That chain matters. And frankly, if celebrities are going to use their platforms, this is infinitely better than selling detox tea or pretending cryptocurrency will liberate mankind. The bar is underground these days. But still. There's also something deeply ironic about Meghan being criticized for discussing online toxicity when she herself became one of the most aggressively targeted women online for years. She knows firsthand what digital abuse ecosystems look like: the harassment campaigns, the coordinated attacks, the dehumanization, the misinformation spirals. So when she speaks about online harm, it's not theoretical, it's lived reality. And perhaps that's another reason the speech carried weight. There's conviction behind it. Not robotic PR language, not detached academic distance. Conviction. You can hear it. And honestly, Geneva felt symbolic in another way, too. International stages increasingly suit Meghan and Harry more than the traditional royal framework ever did. That's the irony people resist acknowledging. Their work functions globally. Mental health initiatives, digital safety advocacy, community partnerships, international discussions. These are transnational issues. And outside the British tabloid bubble, audiences often engage with them very differently. The world is larger than royal gossip columns, a shocking revelation for some editors, I know. And while critics continue recycling the same tired narratives, Meghan keeps evolving publicly. That evolution matters. She sounds more assured now, more direct, more strategic. There's less need to prove herself, which makes sense after everything that's happened. At some point, surviving relentless scrutiny changes a person. Either it crushes them or clarifies them. And with Meghan, it increasingly looks like clarity. Geneva showed that clearly. She wasn't there begging for approval. She wasn't there defending herself. She wasn't there trying to win over critics who decided years ago they would never be fair anyway. She was there to deliver a message. And she delivered it, effectively. Now, whether governments, tech companies, and institutions actually act on these issues remains the larger question, because speeches alone cannot protect children. Policy matters, enforcement matters, corporate accountability matters. But public pressure creates momentum, and moments like this help build that momentum, even if parts of the internet would rather discuss whether Meghan's hairstyle secretly threatened the monarchy. People really wake up each morning and choose madness professionally. Still, beneath all the noise, the core message from Geneva remains incredibly simple. Children deserve protection. Innovation without safeguards is dangerous, and society has a responsibility to act. That shouldn't be controversial. Yet somehow, in 2026, saying protect children online still sparks culture wars, because modern discourse is essentially a raccoon trapped inside a malfunctioning blender. And through it all, Meghan Sussex stood composed, articulate, and focused, which, once again, is probably what irritates critics most of all. Not failure, not scandal, not collapse. Composure. Because after years of predictions about irrelevance, instability, and downfall, she continues appearing on influential stages discussing global issues, while her loudest detractors remain trapped writing furious essays about her existence from dimly lit comment sections. That contrast speaks for itself. Geneva was not just another appearance. It was another reminder. Meghan Sussex is still here. Still speaking, still advocating, still commanding international attention. And whether critics like it or not, conversations about children's digital safety are only becoming more important from here. The world must act again, she said. Honestly, she's right. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.